Hello, I am Dr. K. Welcome to Hashtag Becomer Series Stories. We're having all sorts of Hashtag Becomer Stories on our YouTube channel. We welcome you. This is the first one, and we are so excited because this is all about you. We're here to highlight you and your stories of becoming, the journey, overcoming the obstacles and how it felt, how you did it. We're here to encourage you, support you, give you information, and not only you, but all those who are listening to us, information and support and how they can overcome and they can be becomers too. And they have their own hashtag becomer stories. We're here to give that enlightenment to you guys today. So we're glad that you're with us, and we hope that you are motivated, that you are encouraged, and knowing that you are fabulous, that you are awesome. And yes, you deserve it. So none other than Jennifer Macias to kick it off with us. She is fabulous. I can't wait for you to hear her story. She is fabulous. So welcome, Jen, better known as Jen. That's her. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. I'm doing all right.
Excellent. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
So my name is Jen Macias. I'm a former CSUMB student. I graduated May of 2019, and I'm a registered sleep technologist now.
Nice. Wow. That's a lot. So first of all, you went to CSUMB. That's awesome. So what made you want to go to CSUMB?
Well, originally when I was applying for colleges, I just wanted to get out of, my hometown. I was there my whole life. I was like, I want to go somewhere else. I want to go out of state. I was thinking so big.
Yes.
But then I decided to stay closer to home because I wanted to be
Okay.
there for my family. My mom was dealing with some stuff, and I just kind of wanted to be close by. So I went to CSUMB. That was like the
Nice.
closest school that I had applied to, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
really happy with my choice. It was awesome.
Oh, that is wonderful. So what did you major in? Now, you said you were a sleep technologist, and we're going to get into that. We're going to unpack that because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I have trouble sleeping. And a lot of times it's because I have so much on my mind, but I don't know. But we're going to find out more from Jen on that. But what was your major at CSUMB?
I majored in psychology, and I just
Wonderful.
basically focused all of my schoolwork on sleep, and that's how I got to where I am now.
Wow. So you just focused on sleep. So tell me a little bit about how you even got interested in sleep. I mean, that's interesting by itself. First of all, I'm kind of curious. You picked a psychology major. Was that what you had in mind when you went into it with the psychology major? Was focusing on sleep? How did that all happen?
Originally, that's what I wanted to do. Was I wanted to go into criminal psychology. I just wasn't passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I stumbled across sleep, it was actually because my academic advisor kind of pushed me towards it. She looked it up,
Wow.
she Googled it right in front of me, and she's like, well, Jen, you're on academic probation now for the second time. You're not doing good. Like, this
Right. We
isn't
got to
going
figure out
to.
another road, right?
Yeah. It's not motivating you. You have to find what you
Mm-hmm.
really want to do. So I brought up sleep. She Googles it right in front of me, and she's like, well, what about this sleep tech job? You can watch people sleep overnight. And that was when it kind of like really set off. After that, I couldn't really stop thinking about it. It was like all I wanted
Wow.
to do.
That is awesome. I mean, how you did that is so, and how it kind of fell into your lap, so to speak. Very
Hmm.
interesting that you went in with one idea, one intention, and it wasn't working. So you were talking about being on academic probation, and here you are,
Yeah.
this successful, professional now, and yet you were on academic probation. So you made it. So what happened there? Was it the switch to the right lane of sleep? Is that how?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
I think it was definitely the switch. And I also was struggling a lot with mental health. When you're a first
Mm-hmm.
generation student, I think that there's a lot of pressures on you and a lot of struggles that,
Mm-hmm.
are really difficult. And so when I was going through that, I think that also kind of pushed me back. And that's also why I was on academic probation
Mm-hmm.
twice. So, I mean, it
Yeah.
was really hard, but I mean, once I found that thing that really sparked life into me, it's like I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't stop thinking about it. There was this quote that I did a speech on right before I graduated, And it says, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. And that's
Nice.
really what pushed me. I mean, that's all I thought about. I almost
Mm-hmm.
obsessed over it, like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to do this. This is what I want. What do I have to do? I'm going to study for 3 hours tonight. Like, I just went
And excited about
crazy.
it, right?
Yeah, when it excites you like that, it's almost like, it's almost fun, like you
Yes,
just want to get
exactly.
there. So you just take these steps and you just do it.
That's awesome. So you found your passion. That's what I'm hearing. You
Yes,
found your passion of what ignites you, what makes you want to get up in the morning, right?
yes,
That is
yeah,
awesome. And it takes time, right? So you
totally.
talk about first gen. So that adds another layer to it. So tell me, what were some of the challenges in college that you had to overcome as a first gen student, but just as a student in college, period? In trying to find their way. Talk about some of those challenges and how you overcame them, please.
Yeah, well, first thing is that when I ended up going to college, my mom actually ended up moving to Mexico to take care of my grandmother, who was really sick
Okay.
at this point. And so I
Mm,
was completely by myself. I had my older brother, but he was a lot farther. And so
sure.
I was completely alone, and it was really hard going from like my hometown, everything that I knew, to like
Mm-hmm.
suddenly I'm in this new place. I don't know anybody. I'm by myself. That was
Mm-hmm.
probably the hardest thing there was just dealing with that and feeling that sense of like, okay, now I have to push myself. I have to motivate
Mm-hmm.
myself. I've never had to do this before, but I'm going to have to learn. And
Mm-hmm.
so one thing that really helped me was just reaching out to people, finding different resources. I became a part
Mm-hmm.
of the Educational Opportunity Program, which really
Mm-hmm.
helps first generation students at CSUMB. And I know in other universities as well. So that was
Right.
something that really helped me, was reaching out and seeing what there is around me that I can kind of use to help me get through these challenges. And that really, really helped. I think it also helped being in a small campus and getting to know your
Mm.
professors. There's
Mm-hmm.
some professors that I met, in that first year that really got me through it. I mean, just having conversations with
Wow.
them, that really helped me. They were so understanding, if I needed help with an assignment or just extra support, they were always there. So I think, for me, it was definitely just reaching out, which isn't easy. I
Mm-hmm.
know when I was younger, I
Mm-hmm.
used to hate asking for help.
Mm-hmm. I was
I
gonna
don't know what it is
say,
about. What is it? I hear
yeah,
that a lot where it's like, I
yeah,
just want to do it myself. But when
yes,
you're going through it like that, you just can't. You have to
yes.
rely on other people, and that's okay.
Exactly. It's better than okay, right? And
Mhm.
I love that because you're right. You point out a very good point, and that is that we all need each other so that we can
Yes.
succeed, right? We to
Mhm.
get to our goals, whatever it is, we need each other. You have to ask for help. And it's
Mhm.
okay. Matter of fact, you're stronger because you ask for help. We
Yeah.
always think of asking for help as being weak, and
Mhm.
really it's strength. And you showed that because by you asking for help, look at you now,
Yeah.
successful. I mean, and you graduated with the class of 2019,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And so for you to be in a professional position, I believe you're in a professional position now, that what you
Mhm.
just shared with us
Yes.
at this point. That is awesome because you have a lot of students that when they came out in 2019 that they are still looking because not maybe not being prepared, or maybe in some cases where the market was just really rough. So
Mhm.
you had a journey that was very interesting um, in getting to the position that you're in now.
Mhm.
Talk about how you maneuvered your way into the sleep world. Let me just say that,
Yeah.
in your first contact with the actual professionals. I
Mhm.
always like that story. Talk about the "Let Me Feel the Wire" story. That's what I call it.
Oh, I know. I love that story. Well, I feel
Yes.
like I can't talk about my beginning without talking about the Undergraduate Research Opportunity Center, the
Okay.
UROC program at CSUMB, because I was a scholar with them, and through them, I was able to
Awesome.
find the opportunities that kind of led me
Okay.
to sleep. So and I'm so grateful. I love everybody there. When I first got into UROC, I was told that I would be like the first person to really go into this specific niche. So I just thought, okay, I'm gonna have to find some resources. And during my
Mm-hmm.
first kind of search and looking at internships or fellowships or something like that for the summer, I found this fellowship through Brown University. It was like for
Oh,
sleep and
wow.
chronobiology, and it
Mm-hmm.
was amazing. It was everything that I was looking for. And so I applied. I didn't feel very confident. I was actually just under the GPA requirement that they were looking for. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I did it anyway. I had a really great mentor. Her name was Dr. Dyer Seymour. She's awesome, incredible
Wow.
person. I still talk to her now. And so she helped me kind of apply and get it together, and I ended up getting it. So when I got
Awesome.
there, I learned everything I could about sleep, like sleep and chronobiology, of course. Like I learned about the
Mm-hmm.
basics of sleep and kind of how that works. And I also was trained as a sleep technologist because I was gathering data and doing
Mm-hmm.
research. And so that's kind of where I got my foot in the door.
Okay.
I got to meet the father of modern sleep medicine, Dr. William Sleepman.
Wow.
Rest in peace. Unfortunately, he did pass recently, but he was
Mm.
such an inspiration to me. And
Mm-hmm.
the director of the program, Dr. Mary Carskadden, she's such a wonderful researcher and such a strong woman and scientist. And so working under them really pushed me to want
Mm-hmm.
to really get into this field and do everything that I could for it. Once I got out of that fellowship, I came back. I was working at Jamba Juice, and I remember feeling super jet lagged. And there was a customer that came in, and he's like, "Oh, you seem tired, you know?" So I was making casual conversation. I told him what I had just done, and he's like, "Well, there's a sleep lab here, and here's a business card, you know." And so I was super excited about that.
Wow.
I know. Well, actually, you know what? I'm wrong. He came and dropped off the business card the next day, but I
Okay.
wasn't there. So, I got a business card. I called them, and they were looking for somebody that was registered, someone that had certifications. And I and,
Mm-hmm.
and I just kept calling, and I just called over and over. I was like, "Please, you just gotta give me a
So they
chance.
said
I
no.
love
They
this."
said no first. Is that what I'm
They said no
understanding?
several times.
Oh,
They
wow.
said no several times. They're like, "No, unfortunately, it's just not what we're looking for." I'm like, "I know, but just hear me out. Just give me a chance." And I got so frustrated, and I just said, "Can I just see the lab? Can I just get a little
Mm-hmm.
tour? I just want to touch the wires. I just want, just give me something." And I
Right.
ended up making the person laugh, and she's like, "Okay, let me talk to the owner. We'll see what we can do." And they got
I
me in
love
there,
it.
and that's where I got my first job as a trainee. So that's kind of the way my sleep journey played out from then on. I mean, it got to where I am now, but I had to go from being a researcher to getting into this fellowship and then forcing my way into an
Yes.
actual sleep lab.
Knocking down the doors. That's right.
I wasn't gonna leave without getting a yes.
You were
I was just
determined.
gonna keep calling.
You went back several times to hear no, 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 but you something in you kept saying no. This is definitely my calling. This is what I'm supposed to be here for.
Hmm.
And you want to touch the wires. Now I know because you kind of told me what the wires are, but our audience may not know what the
No,
wires are.
yeah.
Kind of, tell them a little bit about what that is.
So when you go into a sleep lab and you go in to have what's called a sleep study, what happens is you have a technologist, so me, we come up and we give you all the information. We say, "Hey, we're going to put all these wires on you. We're going to look at your brain waves, your respiratory, your heart. We're going to put all these little sensors on you, and we're going to have you sleep overnight so that we can monitor while you sleep and see what's going on
Mm-hmm.
with your sleep." So the
Mm-hmm.
technologist is actually not able to give you results that next morning. But what we do is we basically just collect all the information for the doctor to look at. And then, if you have a sleep disorder, they're able to treat you and they're able to,
Mm-hmm.
give you the right diagnosis. So that's kind of what I meant by wires.
Thank you. See, I remember when she said it the first time and we was telling the story, I was trying to figure out what wires is she talking about, right? But she told me, and it ended up being really great. And I'm so glad you shared that story. I think it's awesome because that would make that made the technician laugh, and it
Yeah.
kind of and it also made them see that this girl is serious about doing this position, and that ended up having her to have an opportunity
Hmm.
that she would have never have had if she just gave up after that first no. She would have
Hmm.
just, we don't know what would have happened, but she wouldn't have been in the opportunity she's in now because of all of that. I'm sure helped lead you up to the position that you were able to get. Now, I know there was some certifications that you had to take and test and things. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so after I became a trainee, through the medical board, I started on this journey of becoming registered, because as a trainee, you get to work under a registered tech and you never
Mm-hmm.
work alone. I mean, you're always working with them. But when you're a registered technologist, you have a little bit more independence. You can work by yourself. You can fully take care of your patients. It's really difficult, but I had to take an exam to get to that point. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was so difficult to study for
Oh
that
my
exam,
goodness.
because you're also dealing with this feeling of, am I even good enough for this? Am I even going to be able to
Mm,
absorb this information? What if I'm
mm-hmm.
just terrible at my job? You're dealing with
Mm-hmm.
those like negative
Negative
thoughts. At least
self-talk.
I was.
Yes.
It
Yes,
was
we talk
it
about
was so
that.
difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And especially because I was studying during COVID. I mean, imagine trying to study
Mm,
for this position and
wow.
you have all this other stuff going on. I mean, I was laid
Yes.
off. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was trying to get my exam done. All these test centers kept closing down. I was so
Wow.
stressed out. So it was hard for me to absorb that information. I had to like really crack down and, just tell myself, this is what I have to do. I've been working for this for years, I
Yes.
have to do this. And so I ended up taking the exam, and that's how I became registered now.
Congratulations, by the way. Very
Thank you.
good. We are so proud of you and happy for you. You have done some awesome things. I mean, you've overcome so many different challenges. I mean, in school and after you graduated with the certifications. And what I keep hearing from you, and it's always inspired me, is that you never give up. You make it frustrated, and that's what I love about it, the transparency of her telling the story of saying, she was frustrated, she was upset, she was stressed, but she went past all of that to get to the goal. So it's like, how bad do you want it? What did you say, the quote that you just quoted a minute ago? Do you
Where
have to
it's
want it
like,
as bad as you want to breathe?
yeah, yeah. And it's
Right.
true. I still do. I still do. I have so many goals, and I just don't, I don't see myself not accomplishing them. You can't have that image of yourself not accomplishing them,
Exactly.
because if it's even there for a second, it's gonna make you feel unmotivated. You have to like just,
Exactly.
I'm going to do this. Like have
I'm
that
going to
positive
get
like.
this done. I will get this done. It will look great and I will be successful, right?
Yes.
So talk to me about what would you consider to be your hashtag become a story?
I guess I would consider it being, I just think of myself as that like lost 17-year-old who was
Mm-hmm.
gonna get kicked out of school because she just didn't know what she wanted to do. And I just keep
Mm-hmm.
thinking about all those sacrifices I had to make to just make it happen. I
Mm-hmm.
was, at some point, I was spending more time with my friends than I was studying. And I was,
Wow.
my mental health was so bad, I wasn't even
Mm-hmm.
calling home anymore. I was just kind
Mm-hmm.
of like not doing anything. So when I think of like my becomer story, I think of what I did from there to get to where I am now, like how hard I
Mm-hmm.
had to push myself. And honestly, I think a lot about the people that got me there. I think a
Mm.
lot about that. I feel like I am so grateful. And
Mm-hmm.
when I think about success, I think about getting those, not only just getting those accomplishments done, but having those people around me that
Mm-hmm.
were there from the beginning. I think about that a lot. I mean, it's amazing the amount of support you can get when you just reach out,
Mm-hmm.
and when you keep contact. And it's something that I think about a lot.
I love it. So I'm hearing you talk about therapists. Let's talk about that a little bit. I
Hmm.
know a lot of times, a lot of people have negative connotations, and
Yes.
that are involved around therapy. Can you talk about that? Why do you think so many people, especially young people or different cultures,
Hmm.
um, have different, I won't say fears, but different ideas of what therapy is, and thinking of therapy as a very negative connotation. Talk about why is it like that? And or why you think it's like that, let's say
Yeah.
that. And but why is it important for us to get over that so that we can be able to press toward our journey to becoming?
I think it just traces back decades. so many years. I remember in my own family, when I was really young, I would ask my mom, Mom, I'm not feeling so well. There's a counselor at school, and she would just immediately shut me down. She's like, nope, nope, you are not crazy, so you don't need that. That word gets thrown around quite a bit, doesn't it? Like,
It
oh, no,
does.
that's for
It's
crazy
like, no,
people.
that's for great. Yeah, exactly,
You know
exactly.
what? We're all a little crazy, aren't we? Like, don't we all
You
have
kind of
those,
need
like,
that, right?
right? Don't we all have that voice inside of our head that's like saying all these like negative things or just making you feel down? I mean, if that's crazy, man, I'm a
Everybody there
lunatic.
is there, right?
Like
That's
it's
right.
there.
Because
I
we all
think,
have that negative self-talk. You're right. You're right.
yeah, I think everybody's a little crazy. That's okay. My family had that belief for a very long time, and I think a lot of it is not having your own personal experience with a
Mm-hmm.
therapist. Just like
Mm-hmm.
what you hear, there
Mm-hmm.
is a lot of times that a therapist has to deal with some very difficult cases or cases that are a little bit more severe. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's what people focus on the most. Sometimes I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, in my experience at least, I don't want to say for everybody, but sometimes I feel like people focus more on the really bad stuff than they do focus
Yeah.
on the other things that a
Yes.
therapist can provide. I mean, they can provide support, they can provide like a good shoulder to cry on, they're not
Mm-hmm.
just there for when you're having a really bad time. They're there to help you kind of like stay on a certain path. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's something that's really important to keep in mind when you consider it for yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
just knowing that you can go in and have your own opinion at the end, because I have heard of
Mm-hmm.
times where someone has that opinion of, oh, that's for crazy people, but they've never actually gone in themselves to form
Mm-hmm.
their own opinion. It's just kind of what they hear. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's really important to go and have your own experience and come out with your own
Exactly.
kind of story, because I personally, I had a great experience. I mean, I had a couple different ones that just weren't really a good fit for me, but it's like
Right.
once you find that good fit, it's
Yes, it's
great.
wonderful.
It's something that's
Yes.
worth trying. I always think it's worth trying, especially when you're having a really hard time. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's always worth a shot. You got to do whatever you can to get yourself out of that dark mindset.
Exactly, exactly. I totally agree. I know a lot in the community that I grew up in. It was the same type of way, but I really started getting my exposure into it through grief counseling. That's how it started with grief therapy,
Oh,
and then
wow.
it kind of moved from there. Like I went because of grief therapy, where my mother and I were very close. And
Mhm.
so when my mother passed, it was hard for me because we were best friends. And
Oh, I'm
so,
sorry.
but but because of this therapy, I can smile like this now. I wouldn't have been able to smile, and talk about that. But but it was a hard time. I wasn't able to smile then, and like you
Mhm.
said, I was in that dark place and I needed that help. And that's being able to recognize that I needed that help. Like I wasn't, I knew I wasn't being myself, as far as just being every day. I really felt like I was just missing her a lot. And
Mhm.
so I was able to get help in someone understanding and helping me to grieve properly. Because the
Mhm.
thing about it is we all grieve differently. So it wasn't like someone could just give you okay, you just do this. Well,
Yeah.
that may work for you, but it may not work for me. And so a therapist was able to guide, me in that. So I think you're absolutely right. We have to know when we need that help and to reach out and ask. And then
Mhm.
after that, it was such a great experience that I just said, hey, I want to be able to do this every now and then. So like
Yeah.
usually every 2 or 3 months, I like to just check in, and see how things are going. Like you said, whether they're good or bad, being able to just check in, it's really a good idea. So let me ask you this.
Yes.
Who is your role model? And I just heard this new term. I was in this forum yesterday and I heard this new term. Instead of role model, they said we need to be calling them real model. They said because a role model is
Wow.
like a person of perfection that you put up on a pedestal and you feel like they can't do any wrong because they're perfect. But a real model is someone that you are able to try to inspire and aspire to, but you understand that they are not perfect. And even through their flaws and their mistakes, you're able to see how they overcome them and continue to move forward. So that makes them real. So who is
Mhm.
your real model?
My mom.
Oh, that's sweet. I
um,
love it.
I
Yes.
I love that woman. You know, she's my best friend. When we were growing up, we didn't have like any relationship. I think I don't
Mhm.
know what it is about mothers and daughters, but it's like when you get to that
It
teenage
is.
stage, my
Yes, it
goodness.
is. Yes, I can
Woo,
definitely understand.
we would
But you still so
bicker.
tight.
Well, now we are, and I think it's because I've gotten older and I can now look back and recognize the parts where, you know, like she
Mm,
was human. It's like what you were talking about. I think I was trying to hold her on a pedestal for too long. But
mm-hmm.
now that I look back and I see that she did make mistakes, like that's what makes her my real model. Because I think
Ah,
she's
that's
awesome.
right.
She went through a lot of like health struggles and
Mm-hmm.
she dealt with a lot of things, you know, with my attitude and my really big
Yes.
mouth. I mean, that woman, oh man. And I think the one thing that I
Oh.
always remember is how she went through things that were difficult, but she did it so gracefully.
Mm,
And she did it with such strength. And she, you know, I don't know what it is about that woman. I just can't. She
yes.
inspires me so much. And I
Yes.
still talk to her all the time. I feel like we hit a big breaking point right before I went to college. I was just so upset.
Mm,
How could you leave me? I'm gonna go to college, you know,
mm-hmm.
and I look back on it and I'm like, well, if it was my mom, I would have left too. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
think
Mm-hmm.
that's where it went from I don't understand her to I think I understand her
I
more than I
get it.
used to.
Yeah.
So we became really close when I was about 18, 19 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
to this day we're still really close. I talk to her almost every day. I just think whenever I go through something really difficult, I think back on how she handles things, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
inspires me and pushes me to keep going. When I make
Mm-hmm.
mistakes, she's so understanding about it. And I think it's
Mm.
because we've both grown so much and we both can
Yes.
now see each other as like human beings rather than
Mm-hmm.
this person's always against me. When I say black, she says white. She just always
Mm-hmm.
wants to,
Right.
you know, and now we just kind of see eye to eye and it's really nice. And my
Wow.
brother too. He's
Okay.
awesome. My
See?
brother is like probably the most loyal, strong person I know. He goes through
Mm.
really, really difficult stuff, but he's always laughing. It's weird. When I
Wow.
was
But that's
younger, I used to be like,
awesome. That's
you're
strength.
so weird. How are you always smiling? You never get upset. You never cry. How are you always happy? And so now I look at him and I'm like, teach me. Teach me how to
Right.
be you. So I
Laughter.
teach my
You say he
family.
laughs a lot. So it sounds like
Yeah.
that laughter from your brother, smiling and encouragement, and definitely your mom being that they are your real models, if you
Mhm.
will. So that's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. So what I would I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, and
Yeah.
because we want to be able to glean from everything that you've done and you learned, and to get to this point, because you definitely have that tenacity to never give up, and that's so rare. You don't find that all the time, so kudos to you. We're
Thank
so
you.
proud of you, so proud. So when have you been in a position where you've had to be a leader? How did you do it? How did you end up leading in positions that might have been challenging?
Mhm.
How did you do that?
The only thing I can really think of just off the top of my head was that when I was in UROC, I was the only person that was pursuing sleep. And I might be
Okay.
wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure I was the only person that was pursuing anything having to do with neuroscience. There was a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
marine biologists and chemists, but for me, it was that. And so I remember when I was first doing my research on the program, it said that they had started off as a marine like science kind of
Mm-hmm.
program. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
being in my interview and saying, well, I'm doing something totally different. How is it that you can, you know, support me through this journey that I want to take?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember
Mm-hmm.
them telling me, well, we don't actually know right now because we've never had, but we want to do this with you. And so I would say that's something that I think of a lot is the fact that I had to blaze my own path.
Mm-hmm.
And I had their support, of course. They were awesome. They were always looking for resources for me. But for the most part, I was doing that, you know, a lot of the times in my own time. And
Mm-hmm.
I just remember thinking of all the people that were going to come after me. And that was a
Wow.
really awesome feeling. You know, what if somebody else
Yes.
comes in? They're like, hey, I kind of want to do sleep. Oh, you had one other student that did this? What did they do? So I
Mm-hmm.
think about that a lot is having to kind of make your own trail and thinking about everybody that's going to come after you that's going to walk that same exact trail.
That's awesome. So you're a trailblazer. Everybody, you heard that. She's a trailblazer. And you know what? You can do it because you are the type that would never give up. And even in the, you know, in the face of no, you're not going to give up. So we appreciate that so much. So the last question I want to ask you is, what is your dream job? What does that dream job look like? I know you have a fabulous one that you just landed now, but what's the dream one look like?
Well, if you were to ask me this when I first started, I would have said sleep doctor. But now I
Okay.
have so many new goals. I would love to kind of be a jack of all trades when it comes to sleep. Like, I'd love to be
Okay.
that person that people contact when they need anything to do with sleep. I want to do presentations. I want to do conferences, workshops, just things like that. I don't want to just, and I do love the idea of being a sleep physician and being able to work
Mm-hmm.
directly with patients, but I also love the idea of working with future sleep professionals as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think
Nice.
when I think of a dream job, I think of something where I can do all of that at once. Maybe I go
Mm-hmm.
and get my MD and my PhD and I become a sleep doctor, but then I
Mm-hmm.
also dabble in and being a board member for, you know, the board of registered sleep technologists. They're the ones that train
Nice.
technologists and assign
Mm-hmm.
the exams and stuff. I'd love to do that. And so I think about maybe hosting conferences or hosting workshops, something where I can do all of that at once, where people can really come to me when it comes to any kind of concerns about the sleep field, whether it's as a patient or as a future professional. I really love that. I don't know if there's a title for that, but if there is, that's what I
That's what you want.
want.
And you know, and if it's not right now, I know you will make a title for it. So, you know, watch out, world. Here comes Jen. We have really had a great time with you today. Thank you so much for taking time to talk with us and kicking off hashtag Become a Story series. We thank you so much. Remember, everybody, that you can go to empowered at journeytobecoming.com to get in contact with me. If you want to find out more about Jen, we want to try to bring her back on and talk to us about just sleep and how we can get better sleep, because that's
Yes.
part of being healthy, not only mentally, but physically. So we'll bring you back on and talk more about that. And if you have other hashtag Becomer stories that you know of that are out there, just send me something at empowered at journeytobecoming.com. That's empowered at journeytobecoming.com. Our website is journeytobecoming, the number 2. And it's real easy, journeytobecoming.com. And you can be able to find out all the different things, the blogs and everything that we have there. We have all of our social media on there. We have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have everything on there. So come to our website, look and see what's what. And we'll hope to hear and have you on here to talk about your hashtag Becomer stories. Thanks again, guys, girls, be positive. See you next time.